Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up to Newcastle, just to the north of me here in Durham, and we're going to have another look at one of the local microbreweries up there. And this is my first encounter with these guys, but they come highly recommended from the guys at Market Hall Wines here in Durham. So for this one we're going to do my first ever review from the Errant Brewery. This is called The First Whistle. It's a double dry hopped American red at 5.6%. I do like the gladiator artwork on this one, but if you've watched the channel before, you'll know this is a beer style that I really enjoy. I love imperial reds, red IPAs, all of these sort of things. For some reason I just absolutely love red beers. It goes back to my time in New Zealand with the ones over there, so hopefully this is a good one because it's a style that I always tend to enjoy. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward a little bit. There's all the usual links in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from the Errant Brewery. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, of course. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos. You guys are one of the best sources of information when it comes to the craft beer, so don't hesitate to get in touch. It's always lovely to hear from you. But anyway, on to my brewery notes on Errant Brewery then. So Errant Brewery are from Newcastle, as I mentioned to you. They were founded back in 2015 by Martin Stockley and Tom Meads. Martin has a background in media and public relations, while Tom has a background in brewing, having worked for the West Berkshire Brewery near Reading for I think it was 5 or 6 years, it was saying in the article. But apparently he's a big fan of the traditional English bitter, while Martin is more leaning towards the kind of American beer styles. But as a result of that, these guys do tend to make quite a few different things. They are quite a prolific brewery if you look at their list of beers. But the brewery were originally based in a railway arch in the King Edward Bridges arches, but they had to actually move very recently because National Rail found that the building had some major problems and it had apparently needed some really major structural work to actually keep it safe. So they've moved now. Their new home is at Arch 19 on 4th Street, which is just a short distance away from the King Edward Bridge arches. But they also have a tap room at the brewery, and they say that the best thing to do is actually to follow them on Facebook so that you can keep up to date with the times that this is open, because apparently, particularly in the winter, it is quite sporadic. But as of March 2018, when I'm filming this review, these guys have produced something like 35 or so different beers. So they are quite prolific, as I said. You know, in three years or so that they've been around, to produce 35 different beers is pretty good going, and as I say, there's quite a diverse variety of styles, so make sure you try some of them. Try a few different things. As I always say when it comes to trying a new brewery, try something from the lighter side like an IPA or whatever, and try something from the darker side like an imperial stout, and that usually gives you a good idea of the scope of a brewery's brewing. But that's all I have to tell you about the brewery just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, they do have a blog on their website, and as I said, you can follow them on Facebook, but make sure you have a look at the links below if that's what you're interested in. But anyway, on to this beer itself. So as I told you, this one is a 5.6% red ale, American red ale I should say. The hops in this one are Simcoe, Mosaic, Amarillo and Eldorado, if I'm remembering correctly. Actually, I've just noticed that it actually tells you that on the can. It says in the back here, a celebration of simpler times. First Whistle is a heady mix of Simcoe, Mosaic, Amarillo and Eldorado. Dry hopping is double stepped to maximise the flavours. This is a beer for the contenders, the gladiators and the John Andersons everywhere, ready or not. So yeah, nicely presented this one. As I say, 5.6% American red. Just check that you can see the artwork on the camera control here. I do like the gladiators, as I was saying, but yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. This is a 440ml can. As I've said before, I really don't understand why a lot of breweries are doing the 440ml. I'm not sure if that's an American pint. That seems to be something that's been adopted from over there, rather than just using a ½ litre as you would normally do on mainland on the continent in Europe, or a 330. I'm really not sure why 440 is becoming a thing. I think it's to do with American fluid ounces and stuff. But anyway, enough complaining about the volumes of cans. Let's actually get on to the beer itself. And of course I should be happy because 440 is more than 330, as a number of breweries in the UK go for. But yeah, let's get it out then and into the glass. Quite a bit of head forming on that one actually, so we'll just leave it at that for the moment. But as you can see, and as you would expect from the red ale, it's poured a nice kind of almost Yeah, I think it's more of a kind of coppery colour that. You can see there's a solid 2 fingers of a frothy head on that one. I think it's fair to say that's a very kind of beigey, creamy head. There's 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the head, or sticking towards the side of the glass on this one. Quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head. You can smell a little bit of that nice caramelly, biscuity malt coming off this one as you open it up. But yeah, it looks pretty much as you would expect from the radio. I wasn't expecting it to be quite as hazy right enough. I was thinking it would be a nice kind of clear colour, but you know, as long as it tastes good, it doesn't really matter whether it's hazy or whether it's clear, to be quite honest. But let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. That does actually smell pretty nice, I have to say. So yeah, with the malt base, as you'd expect, it's almost got a little bit of a kind of rye-ish quality to it. You can smell a nice bit of toasted caramel in there. There's a bit of a biscuity note, almost like a bit of a kind of bread and butter thing going on as well, which is quite nice. But yeah, as you would expect from the radio, it's got quite a sweet, slightly grainy-ish malt base, a little bit of biscuit, as I was saying, some sweeter caramel. Maybe it's a little bit toasted actually. It reminds me a little bit, some of the aromas coming out of that really remind me of like Werther's Original Sweets, which is quite interesting. There's just a little bit of that almost butterscotchy note to this one, but the caramel does get a little bit stronger as the beer, maybe just as the beer's warming up or whatever. But it does smell pretty nice, I have to say that. The fruity notes of this one are interesting. But it's got a nice, you can smell in there, it does have a nice bit of a kind of bready base to it as well, and that's probably the yeast that they're using, I would think. But in terms of the hoppiness from this beer, definitely a sort of grassy floral kind of thing going on. It's quite orangey as well. I mean, when you've got Amarillo and Mosaic in there, you are going to get a good bit of orange. Amarillo tends to give you the more oily kind of sweet orange, whereas the Mosaic tends to give you the slightly lighter tangerine. And then there is a wee bit of a kind of tropical note to this one. I mean, El Dorado usually can give you a little bit of sort of pineapple or something like that. I'm not getting too much of that out of this beer though. The kind of pineapple-y notes are quite, they're quite subdued in this one. Simcoe normally give you a bit of passion fruit as well, and you can pick up a little bit of that. Maybe it's just the kind of, the tropical fruits are just mixing together and giving you a kind of almost fruit salad-y type thing. But I would say definitely this beer for me, in terms of aroma of the fruits, it comes across as a bit more orangey, but there is a little bit of that tropical note to it. But I think the Mosaic and the Amarillo are definitely a little bit more prominent, but it could just be because, you know, the nose being dominated by these orangey characters, maybe those are just the ones that are kind of grouping together and sticking out a little bit. But I do love these, I do love orangey flavours and orangey aromas when it comes to IPAs and things, and I do like it in the radios as well, I have to admit. But just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beers before you get stuck in. It's always nice just to do that. That's half the experience when it comes to craft beer and sake and whiskey and stuff like that. But without further ado, let's get stuck into this one then. So this one is the first whistle, a double dry hopped American red at 5.6% from the Errant Brewery up in Newcastle in the northeast of England. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål. Yeah. I have to say, it's quite a nice beer, that, actually. It's quite interesting, that, because it's... The hoppy character on this one's really nice. The malt base isn't quite as sweet as I was expecting. From the aroma, I was expecting quite a bit more kind of caramelly presence from this one, but it's definitely got more of a sort of bready quality to it than anything else. Yeah. If it makes sense, this beer, it's almost a little bit like a kind of New England red ale. If that makes sense, it's almost like a red New England IPA. That's kind of how it's coming across to me, just because of the malt base. The malt base is a lot more kind of bready, and I don't think there is oats in this beer, to be honest with you. But just the way the yeasty qualities are kind of coming out on this one, I'm not sure. I could be wrong in thinking, but maybe the yeast that they've used in this is US-05. I'm really not sure, but it has that kind of bready quality that you get when you use that yeast. It's one of my favourite yeasts to use in homebrewing. It's a very popular yeast to use in homebrewing, actually, and it's almost like the beer has that sort of bready, almost slightly New Englandish quality to it because of that US-05 yeast. I really wonder about that just from the flavours that are in the malt base. But it would be interesting to know, because you know, it has that little bit of, that almost nostalgic feel. I had an IPA from the Heulier Brewery in Malmö, and it was a classic IPA. I think it was Simcoe Citra and US-05, and it was really well done. And this beer, the way that the malt base comes out in this one, it reminds me of that. I really do wonder if it's US-05 yeast in there, which is quite unusual when it's an American red. Usually you expect the American red to be a little bit lighter than that, a little bit less bready, with a bit more of a kind of caramelly biscuity thing. But it's quite an interesting one. What I would say about it is, you know, in terms of style, an American red, I'm not sure exactly how it fits in to that category, but for me, it's not all about how the beer fits into a certain style per se. It's more about if it's a good beer, and it is a good beer, so we'll give it that. As I say though, the American red thing, not so sure. But in fairness to it, once you get past that kind of bready-ish note that's in there, and once it mellows out a little bit, to be honest, you do actually get quite a lot of the kind of caramel and biscuity note that you would expect to the style. It's just it's almost like the kind of bready quality that this one has caught me off guard a little bit. So, you know, that you do get that kind of bready quality, that bready yeasty quality, that blankets the middle of your tongue. Right in the middle of the palate though, you start to get this sort of sweeter, caramelly note, and it does remind me a little bit of the kind of butterscotchy notes that you have, and almost a little bit like a kind of Werther's Original thing. But if you go right down the middle of your tongue, there is a sort of line of a sweeter caramel, maybe like a kind of digestive biscuit thing in there as well. So the malt base, it does have that sweeter aspect, as I was saying, that you expect of an American red, but the bready notes that are coming out of this, for me, that's not something that I would normally associate with an American red, if that makes sense. But the main point, as I say, is not whether it fits into a specific category of beer. It's more just about whether it's a good beer. And it is a good beer. It's got nice flavour to it. And, you know, for me, that's the main thing. But yeah, hoppy side of this beer is nice as well. In the back corners of the palate, there's a tiny little bit of earthiness. That'll be the mosaic that's giving you that. I always find you get just a little touch of earthiness in the back corners of the palate from the mosaic. As you come further forward, there's maybe a little touch there of herbal quality, but as you keep coming further forward, that's when you start to get a slightly kind of spicy, floral aromatic kind of thing. And as you go round the very front curve of your palate, right round the front edge of your tongue, that's when it becomes a little bit kind of lighter and grassy and things. And of course, behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get the little oily bubble, where those nice kind of fruity esters start to come out the beer. And for me, this one's interesting because you can pick out the sort of passion fruity notes of the Simcoe. They're just kind of sitting on top of the front edge of your tongue there. But as it mellows out a little bit, you start to get the more oily orange, and then more into the aftertaste, a little bit of that kind of tangerine note comes out. But there's almost a little bit, that tangerine kind of thing is being sort of pushed by almost a little bit of a kind of pineapple or sort of watermelon-y kind of thing. I do think there's a, is it melon or watermelon? There's a sort of almost candied fruity quality to this beer as well, which is interesting. On the fruity edge, just at the back end of it, you've seen how long it was since I took a sip of the beer. It starts off with the passion fruit, you get a little bit of you do get the orange coming out, then it fades away to give you the kind of more lighter tangerine, but then the beer, the fruity characters, pardon me, start to become a little bit kind of candied or something like that, which is really interesting. There's a lot of interesting things going on in this beer. So what I will say about it is that it's definitely one that kind of keeps you on your toes a little bit. But yeah, they've done a nice job with this. I will say that, you know, on the basis of this beer, it does make me curious about some of their other ones. You know, everything in this beer, it's all about how it kind of goes together, I feel like. As I said, my only thing is I'm not quite sure how much it fits into the American red category because of the sort of bready stuff that it has, which is as far as I can remember, is not something you would tend to expect from the style. But it does, you know, the flavours all work together well, and it's certainly a nice beer, this one. I like how it comes across. But yeah, so mouthfeel of this one then, definitely a mid-bodied beer. Carbonation is pretty smooth. It leans somewhere between it's got a little bit of an oily character, but for me this one is kind of more of a smooth note, and that's mainly because of that yeasty quality that I was talking about. So the malt base is very smooth on this one, but as it mellows out a little bit, you do start to get some sweetness from it. There's a good little bit of hoppy bitterness to this beer. It's not going to blow your head off in terms of IBUs right enough, but it's got a nice sort of floral kind of thing going on, and then there's a nice juicy fruity quality to this one. As I say, the interesting point about this beer, and I'm pretty sure it'd be the El Dorado that's bringing out the kind of candied fruit flavours in this one, but overall it's a nice beer. I'd recommend you have a go at it, because it really is, it's one of the more interesting beers that I've picked up in the kind of red ale category. As I said, I'm not quite sure if it fits into the American red category quality, but that kind of bready yeasty note that's in this one, which I'm pretty sure that that's US 05, if not something very, very similar to it that they've used in this beer. It works for it, and it gives you a genuinely interesting beer. But it does actually say, I've just noticed on the back there, it does actually say that there is oats and wheat in the beer. So I don't know, when they're saying an American red, maybe this could be like a New England. It could almost be like a kind of New England red IPA, something like that. That's almost, to me, that's the kind of category I would put this beer in, and that makes sense actually. Maybe I'm wrong about the US 05 now that I've seen the oats and wheat thing on the back of the can there, but you know, it makes you think, this beer. But in terms of the actual quality of itself, they've done a nice job with it, and I would certainly want to try a few of their other beers. I know they've got some regular IPAs, and I think they've got some darker beers as well, so I will try and get a hold of one of the regular IPAs and one of the darker beers to review on the channel for you. But it's cool to see there's another Newcastle brewery there that are trying these different American styles. So yeah, good luck to the Errant Brewery going forward, and hopefully I can review a few more of their beers. But once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. If you have tried this one for yourself, let me know your own thoughts on it in the comment section below. It's always interesting to hear from you guys, like I was saying. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Check out my social media, but most importantly, support your local craft breweries, and make sure you have a go at some of these Errant beers. Until the next time, Slanger just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. The first whistle, quite an interesting American red beer, this one from the Errant Brewery in Newcastle. Slanger just now.